Hey, what's up? I'm Darkbblue, aiming to help everyone to enjoy games in depth. In previous videos, I've shown you interactive combat and buff stacking combat in Elden Ring. The two combat styles are also present in Souls-like games. But the topic of this video, controlling combat, is what really makes FromSoft games shine. I will cover all the 4 aspects of controlling combat in Elden Ring: damage level, status effect interruption, stance, and set move. Let's start with damage level. So damage level is a property of each of your moveset. Damage level is not a continuous value like attack or defense, but a discrete level or rank. And when a certain move hits the enemy, the stun animation will be selected according to the damage level of this move. For example, rank 2 damage level causes such light stun, rank 3 causes such heavy stun. Rank 9 will send enemies upward into air, and kick with rank 5 damage level will push enemies backward. Naturally, the stun animation is determined by both damage level and what enemy is hit. For example, damage levels that can knock down regular enemies can only stagger Crucible Knight slightly. There are 2 additional things you need to know about damage level. Number 1, it's not accumulative. Each of your attacks is independent from others, and you don't need to accumulate anything with successive attacks. Number 2, even against the same enemy, stun animation can be different based on the state of the enemy. Typically, when doing certain moves, an enemy may temporarily gain some resistance to damage level stun. For example, Omens will be able to resist damage level stun when doing a subset of their attacks. It's also common that some enemies can resist damage level stun when recovering from a knockdown stun. Such temporary resistance is very annoying, which is why we want to introduce another complementary controlling mechanic. So when you trigger status effects such as blood loss or frostbite on an enemy, you can simultaneously interrupt its current move. This stun won't last very long but can pierce through the damage level resistance, which is why I call it interruption rather than stun or stagger. However, not all enemies can be interrupted by status effects. In most cases, only those can be stunned by damage level will be affected by status effect interruption. Generally, damage level and status effect interruption are useful only against a certain group of enemies which should be stunnable by damage level. They are usually mobs and elites instead of bosses. The most important advantage of this mechanic is being non-accumulative. You can stagger an enemy instantly with your first attack and every attack. Therefore, we tend to design combat strategies that can keep enemies stunned till death. For example, Halberd Banished Knight might not be staggered by weak damage level, but damage level rank 3 can guarantee a stagger. I also noticed that even when the knight is preparing for an attack, the stagger will happen no matter what. Therefore, I can use successive rank 3 damage level to accomplish stun lock. Although the knight is able to attempt to attack in between stuns, these attempts will always be interrupted. Now that I know I need successive rank 3 damage level, there are many movesets possible. Jumping R2 attack of mid-sized weapons is usually rank 3. Light attack of colossal weapons is also rank 3. Some uncharged heavy attack of special greatsword is also rank 3. So they can all serve the purpose of stun locking Halberd Banished Knight. Omen behaves differently from Banished Knight, as it can gain temporary damage level resistance during certain attacks, allowing it to escape my stun lock. So I instead use knockdown damage level to create longer stagger, which can be chained together, giving Omen no chance to prepare for an attack. As for specific movesets, there are many skills that can have knockdown damage level, and they all can work here. The two examples showcase how to craft controlling strategies based on damage level mechanics against staggerable enemies, mostly mobs and elites. But for most bosses, things are totally different. This is when we need to talk about stuns. This is yet another stun mechanic, and it is accumulative. You need to gradually damage the enemy's stun bar, which is, well, actually hidden, to eventually create a chance for critical hit. And if the enemy's stun bar is not damaged for a certain period of time, it'll fully replenish instantly. Almost every enemy has a stun bar, including the ones we've talked about that are staggerable with damage level. But since it can already be staggered by damage level, the importance of stuns is still more manifested with super armor bosses. Apparently, it's not a good thing to have to accumulate stuns damage. It means that the enemy can move freely before the stagger is finally achieved. What can we do before that? That's the role of set move. Some enemies have set move, moves that will 100% be triggered if a certain situation is satisfied. Usually, set moves are triggered when enemies reach a certain HP level. For example, base game Radon will use Crack Blade at 3/4 HP and Falling Star at half HP. Despite being attack moves, being highly predictable means we have a chance to exploit such moves. In the case of Radon, you can chain the two set moves together as long as you have enough damage output. In this way, Radon is effectively controlled for a long time, creating a safe environment before the stun stagger is triggered. Generally, for super armor bosses, stuns and set moves are the only chance you have to control them. So you might want to start with knowing their stun bar value and your own stun damage value. But know that in New Game Plus, your stun damage will be reduced gradually, so you may need a new strategy in higher New Game Plus tier. In conclusion, controlling combat is the true soul of FromSoft games. Exploiting controlling mechanics in Elden Ring will make your combat much easier and more fun. However, it's not a perfect solution, meaning that you need to combine different combat styles. That'll be the topic of future videos. If you want to join me into depths of games, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.